In 1588, a watchman looked out over the English Channel. What he saw was the greatest weapon the world had yet seen, a seaborne juggernaut, as powerful as it was unstoppable. A chain of beacon fires sprang into life, sending a warning all along the English coastline. Spain's dreaded armada had finally arrived. The Great Armada was launched a year earlier by Philip II, King of Spain. The trigger was a letter from one of his most trusted spies. The news it contained would change the course of history. On February the 18th, in England, Mary, the Catholic Queen of Scotland, had been executed for treason by Queen Elizabeth. In Philip's eyes, Elizabeth was the real criminal, a murderer, and worse, a Protestant. In the 16th century, Spain was the greatest European power, and her king was the image of Catholic piety. Philip firmly believed, to be a good prince, you must first be a good Catholic. For 1,000 years, the Catholic faith had dominated Europe. Now, Catholicism was challenged by the Protestant heretics of Northern Europe, and especially England. As ruler of the greatest kingdom since the Roman Empire, Philip considered it his Catholic duty to extend his domain across the world, a domain that stretched from the Netherlands to the newly discovered Americas. The one obstacle standing in Philip's way was a 52-year-old queen with blazing red hair and piercing brown eyes. Elizabeth had turned England into a Protestant nation, a bastion of heresy powerful enough to challenge the world's main superpower, Spain. At one time, Philip had been married to Elizabeth's older sister, Mary Tudor, a pious Catholic. After Mary's death, Philip assumed he would remain in the family and offered to marry Elizabeth. He sent her gifts of diamonds and pearls. Elizabeth responded by sending him a case of cannonballs and a firm refusal. His would-be bride became his most bitter foe. Elizabeth's treasury funded rebellions in Spanish territory. Elizabeth's navy preyed on Spanish vessels. And then, on a sunny February morning in 1587, Elizabeth ordered the beheading of her Catholic neighbor, Mary, Queen of Scots. Philip was incensed. He vowed, "With God's help, I will curb the insolence and the sacrilege of the English." With the blessing of the Pope in Rome, Philip declared a holy crusade against Protestant England. "I have dedicated this enterprise to God," he said. He called for the creation of a naval force on a scale the world had never seen. Shipbuilders all over Spain and Portugal worked for 2 years, constructing a total of 131 galleons, each weighing over 200 tons. When completed, the fleet stretched a staggering 2 miles until it filled the horizon. Philip christened his fleet La Felicissima Armada, the Fortunate Fleet. But the force was so awesome, it was soon known as simply La Armada Invencibile. Philip devised a daring 2-pronged plan of invasion. The Armada would sail up the English Channel, while an army marched through the Netherlands to northern France. There, the two forces would meet. The Armada, like a huge crescent shield, would protect the army as it crossed the English Channel to victory. To lead the expedition, Philip chose Spain's foremost military tactician, the Duke of Medina Sidonia. It was a risky decision. Medina Sidonia had never before commanded at sea. Spain's greatest soldier tried to decline. He said, "I have no good health for the sea. I know by my little experience that I shall soon become seasick." But Medina Sidonia had greater virtues than experience, a noble name, a spotless reputation, and a piety equal to Philip's. On February the 9th, he took command of the Great Armada. With a small hand-picked staff, Sidonia immediately set to work. He planned his Armada fleet to be like a Catholic fortress at sea. This fleet was holier than most. Along with 600 pints of wine and 80 pounds of rice, several hundred priests of the Spanish Inquisition would sail with the Armada to convert the English one way or another. Sidonia made the sailors give up whoring, gambling, and for the most part swearing. The day the Armada sailed, every man in the fleet took communion, and the entire nation prayed. Just 3 months after Sidonia took command, he raised the royal banner on his flagship, the San Martin, and gave the order for the Armada to start its 800-mile journey. From every church in Philip's empire, the bells rang out. The Great Spanish Armada was just 20 days out of port when the enemy was sighted. Storm cloud. On the evening of June the 19th, off the northern coast of Spain, the worst gales in a century whipped the Armada. One Spaniard wrote in his log, "I never saw the like, what for storms. It was boisterous and bad, as if it were December." More bad luck followed. Fresh water turned out to be foul. Fresh food turned out to be rotten. And the men's morale sank. Still in sight of Spain, the Armada turned back. On July the 22nd, the flagship San Martin limped into the Spanish harbor of La Coruña. The rest of the scattered Armada would take up to a month to come home. Inside his cabin, Sidonia prayed for guidance. His battered ships would need days for repair and resupply, and he was already late for his rendezvous with the army. Yet he remained devoted to his mission and to King Philip's words. If you fail, you fail, but the cause being the cause of God, you will not fail.